where is this going? It's going nowhere. The $60 billion will go into a hole, and it will, in the end, when that's all gone, there will be no change. There will be no change. We'll still be in this bloody stalemate. So why spend another $60 billion?
It sounds like you're handing this war to Russia, that you're saying, that because we're at a stalemate, the only solution is to not further this war anymore, which would mean considering large parts of Ukraine to Vladimir Putin. Where else do you want it to go?
Where's the strategy to end this war? Tell me how Vladimir Putin loses this war without literally risking a nuclear exchange.
Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who joins us now. Hello to you. Senator, can we ask whether you'll vote this bill through?
I'll be voting no. And it's not that I don't have a great deal of sympathy for the freedom-loving people of Ukraine who've been invaded by a war criminal, Vladimir Putin, or the people of Israel who endured a horrible slaughter, brutal slaughter at the hands of Hamas, or the people of Taiwan who are being threatened by China. The problem is this is money we don't have. This isn't exactly coming from U.S. taxpayers right now. This is borrowed money. This is plundering our children's future. And we're not recognizing the reality, particularly in the Ukraine, where Vladimir Putin will not lose this war. And the other reality is there's very little push from my constituents to provide funding to help other countries secure their borders when we haven't first secured ours. And that was our first bottom line, is we were looking to force President Biden to use the authority he has to secure our own border, which is a clear and present danger to America, before we go ahead and spend $100 billion of money that we don't have that further mortgages our children's future. So again, there's a host of reasons, but in the end, I'm not going to support this package.
Now, many people might accuse you of being America first on that point of view, if you use a catchphrase that's been long associated with the Republican Party, particularly under Donald Trump. There is a border security bill at the moment, though. It was voted down at the weekend, but there is a border security bill there proposed, ready to deal with issues on a domestic front, as you say, with the problems concerning your own border security.
No, it was an awful bill. Again, President Trump had the authority in law to secure the border. He did so. President Biden used that exact same authority, and he opened up the border. The bill that was negotiated was only negotiated to provide Democrats for political cover. It codified 4,000 to 5,000 immigrants per day come to this country illegally. It would have actually weakened a president that was serious about securing a border. It would have weakened that president's authority. So it was an awful bill. It fell on its own awfulness. And again, I know Democrats are using it as political cover, but that was not the solution. The solution was some kind of enforcement mechanism to force President Biden to use the authority he has to secure the border. And might I add, I think most nations should consider their own citizens and their own nation first in considering any policy. That's the role of a nation. There's nothing wrong with that. If America is strong, the world is a more safe and prosperous place. Unfortunately, under President Biden, just about every action he has taken, the open borders, massive deficit spending, war on fossil fuel, the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan, has weakened America, emboldened the West's adversaries, people like Putin, people like President Xi, the Ayatollahs, Kim Jong-un. So we have to first start at how do we strengthen America, and another $100 billion in deficit spending does not strengthen America.
I think many people might say, and look, this bill will go through. It does have Republican backing largely, not from yourself, obviously, but many will say, well, it's a pretty embarrassing look that you're continuing to go against your party and to not advocate the smooth sailing through of this bill. It is a bad look to go out on a limb like this. Many of your fellow senators and colleagues share your concerns, but they can see where this is going, and to refuse aid to Ukraine and indeed the other countries involved is a bad look.
So where is this going? I hear Senator Schumer coming out of the White House saying this is simple. If Ukraine gets $60 billion, they win. If they don't, they lose. How are they going to win? Russia has 4 times the population. The average age of Ukrainian soldiers is 43 years. Russia can produce 4.5 times the number of 155 millimeter shells, which is being used in this bloody stalemate. My concern, because I am highly concerned about the people of Ukraine, I don't want to use the people of Ukraine as cannon fodder in a proxy war between the West and Russia. And I think that's exactly what this war has
Yeah.
devolved into, a proxy war.
It it does
Again,
sound like you
I don't
think
want to see, I
Russia's
don't want to see
already.
more Ukrainians die. I don't want to see Russian conscripts die. I don't want to see more of Ukraine destroyed because they'll have to be rebuilt. So again, where is this going? It's going nowhere. The $60 billion will go into a hole, and it will, in the end, when that's all gone, there will be no change. There will be no change. We'll still be in this bloody stalemate. So why spend another $60 billion?
It sounds like you're handing this war to Russia, that you're
No.
saying, that because we're at a stalemate, the only solution is to not further this war anymore, which would mean considering large
I would
parts
argue,
of Ukraine to Vladimir Putin. Where else do you want it to go?
Where's the strategy to end this war? Tell me how Vladimir Putin loses this war without literally risking a nuclear exchange. It's just not possible. Why did the West pretty well blow up the peace negotiations in Istanbul short weeks after this war began? What was all that about? So there are many questions. I realize, our military industrial complex, I realize the narrative in the media is all about, we've got to be steadfast. But, the only guarantee we gave Ukraine, and I take these things seriously, is if they were invaded, we would take that invasion to the Security Council. That's it. We have far exceeded our commitment to Ukraine, far exceeded it. And again, I'm highly concerned about Ukrainian people, so I don't want to see more of them die, and I don't want to see more of Ukraine destroyed.
But they desperately want to hang on to their land.
Situation,
yeah.
Others aren't.
Yeah, I mean, the Ukrainian people will say that they don't want to concede any of their land, that if you were to put a full stop on that war right now, it would involve Russia taking additional territory. It would involve Ukraine having to sign over land that they've called their own to Russia. There is the other point as well, actually, that this $61 billion, that the money allocated specifically for Ukraine in the aid package, will go a long way. It is an incredible amount of money. It will make a huge difference. And many will argue the reason why the war's reached a stalemate at the moment is because that money hasn't been committed. So no one knows where they stand. Ukraine are having to ration all of their weapons and, bullets, etc., shells. They're having to ration all of that because they've simply not known whether more money will arrive. And another thing that's happened, Senator Johnson, is you committing that money has meant that today, Rishi Sunak, our Prime Minister, has made a huge new commitment to Ukraine and the war effort. He's off to Germany tomorrow. Other Western leaders are set to do that as well. By you passing this bill, it puts confidence in the Western alliance behind Ukraine, and it makes other countries step up in their spending too. And that escalates a much better chance for Ukraine. It's not just about UK, it's the US giving that confidence to other nations.
So it's just the West throwing more money at a bloody stalemate. How do you break out that stalemate? They had their counteroffensive last summer. Unfortunately, it failed. I don't see success this summer either. Again, unless we are willing to risk a nuclear exchange with Russia. Again, Vladimir Putin won't lose this war. It's existential to Vladimir Putin. He has theater nuclear weapons. If it really got to that point, I don't doubt that he would actually use them. Is that what we want to push Russia to do? I don't think this war ever should have occurred. I think we could have dissuaded Vladimir Putin from invading, but we wouldn't do what we should have done, basically declared that we will not offer NATO membership to Ukraine. That was the red line. Now we have NATO Secretary General saying that absolutely Ukraine will become part of NATO. That's not going to help end the war.
Yeah.
So again, I see no strategy for ending this war. I see no strategy for winning this war. All I see is a strategy of spending money that we don't have, mortgaging our children's future. Once that money's gone, we'll be pretty much in the exact same position as we were prior to spending it. There's no strategy for success here.
I'll put my argument back to you that the reason why it's reached stalemate is because funding has dried up. And that's happened over the last 6 to 9 months.
I mean, I just disagree with that premise.
Okay. And to be clear, you fear that...
By the way, Europe is combined is as large as the United States. If this is in Europe's backyard, if they're that concerned about it, they could step up the plate. They could provide that funding if that's really the reason why this is a stalemate. Europe could prevent that as well. But again, they're going to sit back and wait for the Americans to come to the rescue and spend $60 billion that, again, will not turn the tide of this war.
So, to be clear, your concern, Senator Johnson, is that if more money is thrown at Ukraine, $61 billion from the US and several other $1 billion from other Western nations, that will agitate Vladimir Putin to the point where you feel that a nuclear attack by Russia on Ukraine is inevitable.
I think that when all said and done and this money is spent, we'll pretty much be in the exact same position. We will continue to be fighting a proxy war using Ukrainians as cannon fodder in that proxy war. More Ukrainians die, more Russian conscripts die, take no joy in that, and more Ukraine gets destroyed that'll have to be rebuilt in the future. So the only way this war ends is in a negotiated settlement. So we should have some kind of strategy to prompt Putin to enter negotiations. Telling him up front that Ukraine will become part of NATO is not a way to bring Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table. And again, Vladimir Putin's an evil war criminal. You know, I harbor no fond feelings for the guy. I mean, he's an awful human being. I'm not going to like that settlement, but every day that goes by, the settlement gets worse because more people die and more Ukraine gets destroyed. That's the sad reality. It's the awful reality of the situation. And to not recognize that reality is just, again, just going to cost more people's lives and spend tens of billions more dollars that in the end will be wasted.
Do you think this will change if Donald Trump secures a second term as president?
I think he certainly would be dedicated to trying to end the war, which this president is not dedicated to doing.
Well, look, thank you so much for speaking to us today. Hugely appreciated. The Republican Senator Ron Johnson, thank you.
Have a good day.